You know that generation they say is just glued to their phones? Well, they just brought a government to its knees. We're talking about Nepal, where a massive youth-led revolt just forced the prime minister to resign, set his house on fire, and left the nation's parliament in flames.
So that's the big question, right? What could possibly push an entire generation to that level of fury, to the absolute brink? Well, let's get into it. I mean, the immediate result was just seismic. The prime minister wasn't kicked out by some political rival. Nope. He was forced from power by the sheer will of the young people on the streets. And look, this went way beyond just one politician. The whole capital was in crisis. Symbols of power were literally going up in smoke. And the chaos spilled out everywhere, to the point where one minister was even chased down the street by furious protesters. Okay, so you might have heard the official story, that this was all about a social media ban, but that's not the full picture, not even close. The ban wasn't the cause. It was just the final match thrown onto a powder keg of much, much deeper frustrations.
All right, so first up, let's just get a handle on the climax of these protests. That incredible moment when a generation's anger finally and violently boiled over. Things just completely fell apart, and it happened fast. The prime minister resigned, government buildings were burning, and there was even a tragic death in all the chaos. It became incredibly clear that the state had totally lost control.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth did it get to this point so quickly? Well, it all goes back to one single fateful day, when a peaceful protest was met with just brutal force. So picture this. It's September 8th, 2025. Thousands of young people, a lot of them still in their school uniforms, gather for a totally peaceful march. The government's response? Water cannons, tear gas, rubber bullets. But when some of the protesters actually got into the parliament complex, the police response went to a whole other level. They opened fire with live rounds. And the human cost, wow, it was just devastating. 19 people were killed, one of them was a 12-year-old kid. Over 400 were injured. This wasn't crowd control anymore, it was a massacre. And that brutality right there is what turned a protest into a full-blown revolution. Okay, let's circle back to that social media ban. It was definitely the immediate trigger, no doubt about it. But it's so important to understand that it was just the tipping point, not the real reason for all this rage. You see, this whole thing didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The government started this crackdown way back in 2023, demanding these huge platforms register in Nepal. After being pretty much ignored, they set a final deadline. And when that passed, they just shut it all down. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, 26 platforms, gone. And for the people on the street, the real reason was crystal clear. This had nothing to do with cybercrime. For them, it was a blatant attempt to shut them up, to stop them from talking, and most importantly, to hide what was really going on. Because social media was the one place where the corruption and the ridiculous lifestyles of the elite were being put on blast for everyone to see. And this is where we get to the heart of the matter. To really get why this happened, you have to look past the ban and see the deep systemic problems that had been rotting away for years. Just look at this number, 20.82%. That was the youth unemployment rate in 2024. Let that sink in for a second. More than 1 in every 5 young people had no job and really very little hope for their future. And man, nothing shows the massive, infuriating gap better than this. On one side, you have ordinary young Nepalis so desperate for a paycheck that over 15,000 of them went to fight for the Russian army in Ukraine. And on the other side, the kids of the politicians showing off their luxury cars and designer clothes all over social media. This poster from the protests, it just says it all, doesn't it? The anger wasn't just about jobs. It was about the soul-crushing injustice of watching your friends die in a foreign war while the elite lived in a totally different world. And who was at the top of all this? A political class absolutely drowning in corruption. And it wasn't just one bad apple or one party. We're talking former prime ministers from every major party, all facing these massive accusations of graft, from stealing money meant for soldiers to shady land deals. And if all that wasn't enough, you had this constant, dizzying political instability. I mean, since they got rid of the monarchy, the government has changed 13 times in just 17 years. It was just the same old handful of politicians playing musical chairs with power, making and breaking deals, while the country went nowhere.
So after all the fire, after all the fury, after the smoke has cleared, well, what comes next? The government is gone, sure, but all those problems that started this fire, they're still there.
Now, the protesters did get some huge wins right away. The social media ban was lifted, the home minister was out, and then the big one, the prime minister stepped down. The army is now calling for peace, but the people on the streets say they're not done. They want deep, fundamental, systemic change. Think about it. The very generation everyone dismissed has just wiped the slate clean. They've shown the world what happens when people are pushed too far. So yeah, the old guard is gone. But the biggest question of all still hangs in the air. Can a new Nepal, a Nepal free from the corruption and the inequality of the past, actually rise from these ashes?